Hello and welcome to a little bit of wellness. I'm joined by my guest, Nicole. Nicole, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Parth?
I'm very well. It's funny, myself and Nicole, we've known each other since we were probably about 4 years
Wait.
old. We're rocking back into primary school, not a care in the world. And it's funny, we took on similar paths then when it actually came all the way to going to college. We both did health and leisure. You did a slightly different kind of path by taking on the massage route.
Massage.
Can you tell me basically about your experience in college and how that went for you?
Yeah, so I suppose I'll take you back to where I first got the idea of actually taking the course that I done. When I was in Leaving Cert, I never knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I did know that I had a massive interest in aerobic classes. So literally like working my backside off as an actual client doing the classes. And then I remember coming home to my parents one night and I was saying, "Do you know, like I'm working so hard at them and I really enjoy them, so I think maybe that it would be something that would make sense to actually go and pursue that and become the actual teacher for a change." So I went and done that. But before I actually done that, I done a PLC course because I didn't get my points. When you hear that there's always a backdoor route, it's true because that's the route that I took. And I completed my 4 years health and leisure with massage and graduated in 2019 with an honours degree. So I was delighted. It was great. Like the course is so broad. We get to do so much practical work, so much hands-on material, all of the above. Like it was great, and I'm sure that you would agree in your course as well. They're practically the same thing. All that was different, was the massage part. So we were kind of rubbing bodies and everything while we were out running around.
And you've done a lot of stuff yourself, like since then. Like, what kind of projects have you explored? Can you tell us a bit about those?
Yeah. So when I qualified in 2019, I took the year out. I actually became self-employed, so I trade now as NOS Wellness. And that was a great opportunity for me to build my business for that full year. So in that, I suppose I was taking on a lot of personal training clients. I was teaching a lot of classes. I travelled from Ate to Mount Collins. I was in Broadford, Rahina, all of, like Milford, all of these places teaching classes, and it's fantastic because I've grown my participants and clientele so much. It was absolutely amazing. And then back in May, I think it was, of last year, I completed an ear candling course online because obviously with everything that was going on with the COVID, that's still going on unfortunately. We done it online, but then when restrictions opened up a little bit, I was able to actually go up for the day and actually complete the course, so I completed that as well.
What did that consist of? Sorry,
So ear candling is like it's a holistic treatment. It's literally what it says on the tin. It's ear candles in your ear. It's like so it's quite interesting. A lot of people haven't known about it or don't know a lot of information about it, but when I heard it, I had worked in the Aquadome previously as like a massage therapist, so I would have heard a lot of it. I would have been very open to that kind of an area, so I said that I'd go for it. But it's like when you put like an earphone into your ear, it only goes in that far, and you light the top and it burns all the way down roughly to about that much left, so that it obviously doesn't burn the person's ear. And when it's finished, you can give a lovely like head massage and lymph drainage and everything to do with it, so it's really interesting.
And have you done it yourself? Like, do you know what it feels like?
Yeah, I have. So it's like fireworks. That's how I would describe it. It's like lovely fireworks, the sound of that going off in your ear. It's really, really relaxing. Yeah, really, really relaxing.
Would you do two at a time, or is it just one ear?
No, so 1 ear at a time. So you're literally lying on the bed this way, and the candle is straight up. And then once you've this one done, you can flip the person over. Yeah, so it's really good.
That's class, yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of most of the courses that I've done since. And obviously I'm gone back to my master's now. I'm doing a master's in exercise for health. So it's quite interesting. I will say that. It's quite heavy. It's a taught master's. So it's ideal for me because I feel like if I was to go into a master's by myself and like not have 100% support that I would need, I don't think that I would be able to get the best out of it, you know.
Yeah.
So it's ideal.
Yeah, I get that completely. It gives you a bit more structure, doesn't it, when you're kind of told this is the time to do things, and it's so important.
Yeah, it really, really does. And it's great because I have 9 other people in my class, so it's lovely. You still, even though I know with COVID and everything that's going on at the moment, you still kind of have that feel for like WhatsApp groups and stuff that they're still kind of with you, So
interaction is so important to have the social interaction.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
And with NOS Wellness, like you've built a fantastic brand, I must say, like, and your social media has grown unbelievably. I texted you recently, I said it's absolutely class, some of the posts you have up. But tell me about the origins of NOS Wellness. How did like you come up with the idea? When did you decide, okay, I'm
Yeah.
doing this?
So it's really funny. I actually never ever had the intentions of like talking on my stories or anything like that. That was completely out of my comfort zone, completely. So I went visiting Australia over to my brother in 2018. And I remember I went with my best friend Clodagh. She's probably watching this now, so hello Clodagh. But we went to Australia anyway, and I think it just hit me straight away of how different the atmosphere, the people, the whole just going with the flow, the aura, everything, just completely different. It's like, I love Ireland and I love the way everyone is just so close and everything, but there's something about Australia where everyone is just doing their own thing and no one cares about what Susie's doing or what Marianne is doing. Do you know, kind of, everyone just does their own thing. And I remember, yeah, absolutely. It's a completely different world. But when we went over, I remember saying to Clodagh, like, jeez, I love this, you know, the eating out for the fine weather, like, and just the walks. And we used to go to the gym actually. And I remember I came home one day to the apartment and I was saying to myself, geez, I think like I'm after coming up with a great idea, Clodagh. And she was saying, do you know, like, what is it? Because Clodagh would be very supportive. And I was saying, I actually think that I want to set up my own Instagram page. But at that time, the Instagram page was for me. It was, we'll say I was going to start my journey of being more positive, because at that time, I suppose I wouldn't have been really open to that kind of area. So she was obviously go for it. So I was like, right, okay. So we took off then, and the two of us, and we were trying to make up ideas of pictures and posts and stuff to put up. And I remember thinking to myself, this could go two ways now. So it could, looking really far in the future, it could go in a really, really good way where I'm going to start my business, I'm going to build it up, and hopefully I'm going to get across to a lot more people and a lot more clientele and get my point of view out there. Or it could just go the other way where no one follows me. I'm literally posting to myself, and then I was saying, you know what, there's actually nothing bad about that either, because if anything I could use it as my own little virtual journal, you know, and just post stuff to myself and remind myself of how life is and how good it can be and how these bad things can be turned into good things, you know. And I suppose it kind of started from there. And then when I came home, I was in college, I had finished up with work because literally I was spending so much time on my study. I wanted to make sure that everything was going into that. Unfortunately, my mom was diagnosed with MS, so I think that I had a lot going on at that time. And kind of, you know, but she's perfect. It's all good. Like, I suppose it was kind of that thing that kind of drove me on more to succeed more and show my true self even more, you know.
I met your mom recently, actually. She looks great. Like, I never knew that at all.
She's never felt better, as she would say herself. So, no, so it's good. And I think that I use that thing as a drive to actually go on further, you know. Yeah, so no, it was like, it's great, and it's building now. Like, I'm not the one that's going to say, oh, I want thousands and thousands of followers and I want to be like worldwide. That's not what I want. I'm Nicole O'Sullivan, NOS Wellness. It's literally Navigate Optimal Self-Discipline is what NOS actually stands for. Yeah. So a lot of people
thought it was Nicole.
Yeah. So I think that I'm like using my platform to, I suppose, just down to earth material. It's literally, it's not about, oh, be positive, like do this, do that, because we get so sick of listening to all that every single day. It's reality. Not every day like goes to the way that we plan, but at the same time, you get up in the morning, you try to be as happy as possible, and if it works out, it works out, and if not, there's so many different ways that you can actually work on to try and get that and pull it back, you know.
It's just all about growth, I think, life in general. Like, it's just about a bad thing happens. It's how you deal with the bad thing that makes us, I think, like, you know, it's not about it being all great, like, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. And like, I suppose you have to be honest with yourself and open with yourself to kind of realise that, look, this is my life, that's Jerry's life, and we have two different lives, do you know, like, and like, we can get the same, we might have the same end goal, but the paths are going to be completely different 100%. In order to reach that, do you know. So no, it's a journey in itself, absolutely.
But what I love more about, like, on your one is the fact that in your title of like this podcast here is a little bit of wellness. Like the word wellness bring into it. It's not just, oh, I know it's fitness or something like that. There's a bigger, there's a bigger picture
and I think, like, even at the start when I had kind of sat down, like I sat down with girls in college and we trashed out this name and we came up with it together. So I'm very grateful for them too to actually help me out with it, So I think that the fact that when I was first starting my logo, I wanted to ensure that I didn't just cover fitness, because that's not what I'm about. Yeah. Yes, I do teach classes and yes, I do personal training, but I think everything comes from here.
Yeah, I agree.
This is what's going to drive you on, and like if I have like positive thoughts around exercise and positive thoughts about food, this is what controls everything. So when you wake up in the morning and you I'm crazy. Like I'm a crazy person, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, happy thoughts now, right? What's going to happen today? So, like even if I'm in bad form, I'm like, no, Nicole, you're in great form today now. This is what you're going to do today, and when you get those done, then you have time to be in bad form. I'll allow you to do it then. No, so I suppose it's just trying to speak to yourself, to train yourself. That's exactly what it is. Because, like, I remember when I was younger, I was always the person that would have been very quiet. Primary school, national school, or that's the same thing. Primary school, secondary school is what I should say. Excuse me. And I think that, like, at those times, I would have known my friends very well, and they would have known me very well. But when it came to new people, I would have been very iffy about putting myself out there. And like I suppose I didn't have the confidence to, like, I remember always remarking to myself, I don't have much to show that I'm unique or anything like this, and I was so wrong.
So
wrong, because like I look back now and I'm like, oh my god, you were amazing,
exactly.
today, and you should have shown off what you had to offer. But I'm grateful to look back now, because I think that if I didn't, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And I wouldn't be as strong as I am today. So no, it's good.
Like everything you just said there, I could literally repeat that in terms of that's how I see everything. Because it's not just fitness for me. What drives me insane is people they say to me, "Oh yeah, you're a PT," and I'm like, I'm not just a PT. Like I like fitness is part of it, and it's great.
There's so much more to offer.
Yeah, the most important part for me is making the other person a better human being. Like it's just it's like one of those. I think health and leisure has a massive impact though in doing that. Like what we're educated on in terms of like.
It really is.
There's a bigger picture out there. Like
there really is. Even like with massage therapy, I think that you're kind of trained in that area, that as soon as a person walks in, that you can analyze to see, okay, this person is very closed, they're quite tight up top. So like it could be more than something physical going on. It could be something mentally. You have a lot of stress, or it just depends on everyone. Everyone's different.
100%. I think that's what makes it. It's fantastic that everyone's different, really.
Oh yeah, it's so intriguing. It's so interesting, and it's great to have some variety every day. So it's really good.
Definitely. And mindfulness then is something that you're kind of into in terms of NS Wellness. I see it in your Instagram and social media that you do mindfulness classes. To be honest, I'm not actually overly well versed in what mindfulness is, and I should know more about it. But like I know the term, I know a rough idea. But like, what is mindfulness to you?
Yeah, so I suppose in basic terms, what mindfulness means is being present in the moment. So an example that I use a lot of the time, now not everyone, I'm aware that not everyone can drive or not everyone has a license or whatever, but for me, when I first started off, or even anyone that's in a car, so I remember when I first started driving, I remember thinking, you'd just say you travel from at A to Listowel, and you'd be in the car and you're driving along and your thoughts are just like flying everywhere. You're thinking about everything. What am I going to have for dinner? What is the lads doing at home now? Or what if I could go to Spain tomorrow morning? What would I wear? All these thoughts just flying out. And before you know it, you're landed in the park in Listowel. And I remember thinking to myself, now this is only an example, but like I have thought so much when I pull up in my actual destination, and I think, oh my god, I could not remember how I got here. When you're driving up the village in RTA, you remember that because you salute whoever you see, whatever. But as you're driving along the road, you actually don't even remember, like...
Oh, it's like you're in a trance.
Exactly. Exactly. So I suppose that was one trigger for me that was kind of thinking, God, you're in the car, you're driving, your own life is at risk. other people's lives are at risk, and you need to like zone yourself more into the moment. So what I find really useful is actually the radio. Like sometimes I'll have the music, and you know, you can kind of go into your own trance that way, but you're still focusing on the road. And I suppose that's just an example that I use because it just puts it into perspective of what can go on. I don't know, have you ever seen that picture on Facebook, or I think I have it on my Instagram as well, of mindful versus mindful. So mindful means like your thoughts and everything are full inside in your head, whereas when you're mindful, you're controlling them and you're just focusing on one specific thing. Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, it's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, it's just mindfulness is something that's brilliant, because once you start practicing it, it's almost like it's learned. So like cycling a bike, once you start, you'll never again like forget how to do it. Same as swimming. Once you can swim, you'll never forget. But no, definitely, like I'm actually doing a Mindfulness March at the moment. It's on my page. And you take each day by day. So today's day 10, so it's like head outside and feel the weather on your face and how it makes you feel. So I suppose it's just taking yourself in the moment. How do you feel in the present moment? And then like what impact it can have on you for the rest of the day. So it's really interesting.
And in terms of like when you say if you have a mindfulness class now, what do you do to get another person to become mindful?
Okay, so there's so many things, so many different ways. I actually went and done mindfulness classes in ATA at one stage, and what we covered a lot of was meditation, colouring. A lot of people don't realise that actually colouring can allow you to actually become mindful. And as well, that's funny as well that you touch on that, because not only do you become mindful, but you get into a state of flow. So what flow? I don't know, have you heard of flow before? You have, yeah.
That's his name, I swear to God. Me highly, chicks hit me high.
Chicks hit me high. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. So like we used to do meditation, then we done colouring, we done a little bit of massage and a lot of guided imagery. So that would be involved in the meditation. But like colouring, you're colouring and it's just random photos. It could, like, as in patterns, anything at all. It could be anything. Even if you were at home and you wanted to become more mindful, and the child's book, like, of, colours and everything is there, sit down with yourself and actually start, and you'll be so surprised in how the time flies when you're having fun. That statement is, like, used so much, and I feel like a lot of people don't actually realise when they say that what actually is the science behind it. So when I said there a second ago about flow isn't just going with the flow and all this kind of stuff.
People think that's what you mean, like, but it's not.
Yeah. So a state of flow means that typically time flies and you're having fun. So if I was doing an assignment, or if I was outside, maybe even like creating a class or doing a personal training session or whatever, and you start at just say half two, right? And the next time you look at the clock is actually 12:30, or 3:30, I should say, sorry. A full day is gone. 3:30. And you say to yourself, where did that time go? I've just, like, time is after flying by. What's after going on? But what actually happens in that is you're doing an exercise that is challenging you enough to actually keep your head in it. Yeah. But it's not too difficult that you want to give up, or it's not too easy that you're thinking, this is way too easy for me.
It's still balance, like,
Exactly. It's a balance
based off your ability, like, to be able to raise
exactly. Absolutely. And that's basically it. That's basically what it is, and you're so intrigued in it that you're looking for more and more and more, and then by the time you know it, it's like, time's up.
What I find though with flow is I lose my peripheral vision completely.
Yeah.
Like my most common experiences of flow have been playing football, and I know, look, that's whatever, like, people might be saying, oh God, like that playing football.
But there's nothing wrong with it. It's whatever works for you.
But I remember, like, there's certain games that, like, could be a big crowd, and I wouldn't see the crowd. All you'd see is your coaches, the pitch, the players, but nothing else. As in, the whole world outside of it just doesn't exist. It's amazing. Like,
absolutely.
It's so absorbed and inherently.
So absorbed. That's the word. Exactly. You're just. It's you and whatever is happening. That's all that's actually mattering. Do you know? But I suppose for me, I would have experienced it mostly in college. during the 4 years and during my masters. Now I'm experiencing it a lot more, and I feel like that the more that you point it out, the more that you're aware of it. So it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing to actually be experiencing.
Definitely. But we talk about being being present, and I think flow is like a whole other level of being present.
Yes,
absolutely. It's just amazing how it works. Just with flow again, like you were talking there about like when you're, say, a kid, when you're colouring things. I think we experience flow as a child all the time.
All the time.
I don't know. I just
Yeah.
have no idea it's happening. Like it's just
absolutely.
out in the backyard and just playing with a few sticks, and they're probably sure you've no care in the world. You don't care what's going on in the house. You don't. There's nothing to care about. And I think as we get older, we've so much distraction saying, oh yeah, I have to do this, I have to do this, this has to be done for work. Oh, I have a person in my life I have to do this for. And then we realise, oh, there's someone right here that needs to do.
Our mind is full, exactly. So it comes right back to it, Like I have a memory from when I was younger. My dad's a painter. And like I always look back at it now and I laugh because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what kind of a dad is I? Because he's just gas like. But he used to actually fill a bucket of water, give me a paintbrush, and we had like blocks at home like that weren't cemented or they were cemented but they weren't plastered or anything like that in the backyard. And like I used to beg him and beg him and beg him to paint the walls, and that's what he used to give me. So I'd start all the way up the top and paint all my way. And by the time I'd be finished, it would be dry again, so I'd start again. But like little things like that, like it's gas. But for him to think of that was so clever because I was so like thinking that, the imagination running that I was painting the wall, and sure by the time I'd be finished, it was dry again, so start again. But it's brilliant. Like as kids, definitely we do.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
But say, like you're talking to a lot of people there, they might be thinking flow is like going with the flow and stuff like that. Like a lot of people probably, maybe number one, that they might have actually never experienced flow, which is unlikely. But number two, which is more likely, they probably don't know they've ever experienced flow.
They're unaware. Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say to a person in order, like you're saying that you take note of it, I take note of it now myself. What would you say to someone to try and recognize flow a bit more in their lives?
So what I would say is start by becoming more mindful. That's the first step. And like that's not a job, because a lot of people think, oh my god, that's so much effort, how would I even start doing that? It's not effort. It's literally I suppose when you wake up in the morning, it's just kind of like take a big deep breath in. That's what I always say to everyone that would be cross my path, we'll say, in personal training or whatever, is take a big deep breath in and kind of tune in with your body to kind of realise what actually am I feeling this morning? Had I a good night's sleep? And it kind of goes from there. And then when you're looking into experiencing flow, it's just kind of like even if it's your parents that are out planting, or like someone is like working or whatever you're doing, it's just acknowledge the moment that you're actually in and acknowledge the job that you're doing and kind of think to yourself, okay, it's now 10 to 12. I wonder, like, by 10 past, can I get this done? And like, it's that moment when you kind of realise it's 10 past like that, that's when you experience flow. So I suppose it's just kind of become aware and kind of like take note of what is actually going on around you,
Yeah. And I think as well, just to let it be natural is a huge thing. Like, the more seamless, the more fluid it is, I think the more you're going to appreciate, the better the moment will be. If you try and force it a bit too much, it's one of those kinds of experiences that you just need to let it happen. Do you know that kind of?
Because I think that if you kind of force it and want it to happen, that's when you think, oh yeah, it definitely happened for me now today, and that's when it's more than likely not going to happen. So it's when you're most unaware and it kind of catches you off hop. Exactly.
And it's nearly afterwards you realise. It's not during it that you realise it all because you're so immersed in what you're doing. Like, it's after you say, "Oh wow,"
Exactly. It's really satisfying. I think that when you get up and then you're kind of like, oh, I actually got so much of that assignment done now, and another hour will get me finished completely. Because like, even I find it with, like, we would be big animal lovers and we have a few dogs at home, and I find that when you would take the time out to actually play with them or shower them or dry them or whatever, that actually is the exact same. I would find that I would experience flow in that way as well, that time flies, like literally you've watched your own focus, like. Exactly. And they're a massive like emotional help as well. They're animals, full stop, are just great to have.
100%. And in terms of, so when you do like mindfulness and stuff like that, would you ever bring gratitude into it, as in, so as a topic
So
for people?
being thankful, yeah, absolutely. Gratitude is really topical at the moment because I think that a lot of people have heard about it but wouldn't have gone in depth with it. Like that, it's not a job. Or gratitude just comes. It should be something that you should kind of include in your day regularly. When we were in college, I'm sure that you remember as well that they always would say for every one bad thing that you would say, try and think of 3 good things that would come out of it, or 3 good things to overpower it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose in my job and in my experience, I would have come across a lot of people that are like, oh my God, this isn't working for me, or I'm not losing weight, and this isn't happening, and that isn't happening.
Yeah.
If you spent as much effort and time into thinking of something good that you do into something bad, I can honestly say that something good comes a lot quicker than actually thinking in the negative side of things,
I think it's kind of a balance of power. So, like, if there's a Pennebaker is his name, he's an what's the word I'm looking for? Expressive writing paradigm. So he thinks that, like, when you write down what you're grateful for, it's a lot better than just thinking about it. But according to his kind of methods, he was saying that, like, a lot of us, we say if we're doing expressive writing and we're making a journal or something, the first thing we're thinking about is what negative thoughts happened that day.
Yeah.
But if we shift the balance of power to outweighing the negatives with more positives, but keep the negatives still there, but like you said, the 3-to-1 ratio,
Yeah.
the chances are like you're going to have a more positive outlook on life, like, and
absolutely. And like that, it's the more you practice it, the more that it just comes freehand. You don't need to be getting up in the morning and thinking, okay, now Nicole says think of 3 good things, because I'm thinking quite negative today. It's not like that. And I know that like some people make a good laugh of it. That's like, oh, what's your one talking about today? But it's not like that. It's literally like it's raining outside today. It's actually bucketing down from the sky. But like, think about it. The flowers, the grass, the trees, everything are benefiting so much today. We're benefiting because those trees are extending oxygen out to us, and here we are, living things, taking it all in. So there's always something good. And like, even though you can't get out maybe to get your steps in, put your jacket on. You can still get out. That's always only an excuse that we use. So there is so much that you can do even though it's raining. Like, don't always look on the bad side.
Definitely. And I think a lot of people with gratitude, they have this big idea that it's a massive thing. It's not. Like, it's an appreciation of like the simplest things in life.
The smallest, yeah, absolutely. Because even like, I remember back when I'd be in college, or someone hold the door for you, like, be so thankful for that. I know that's only something really minuscule and everything now, but like,
it isn't though.
It's little things, and I think a lot of people are a lot more aware now because of the whole situation that we're in. We are thankful for the slightest of like situations now, because like we were so used to going places and seeing this one and seeing that one, whereas now we're kind of stripped down. Everything is kind of like, this is it, this is what you can do, and if you can do it, fair enough, but if you can't, well, find somewhere else or find something else to kind of keep you occupied, and just be grateful for what we do have rather than what we can't do or what we don't have. Definitely,
100%. What I actually love the most about gratitude is one simple thing. It's the fact that it's an intentional activity. So often, like, we say to ourselves, say if something's going kind of wrong in our lives and we have a lot of negativity and things like that, we say, oh, I need help and I need it from someone else. So with gratitude, it's an intentional activity, which basically means that we literally have the power to influence change. We have the power to make more positivity in our lives. It all comes from us. It's like the power lies within us.
Absolutely.
Like with some people, it's like there, and it's like saying to me, "Let me out, like just let me out." It's just they don't know it yet. Like it's just an amazing thing.
I would agree completely in that scenario, because I notice as well that a lot of people's happiness comes from within. And when you hear that someone like is in a relationship or has a job or anything like that, the job makes me feel so happy, or the person makes me feel so happy, or my boyfriend makes me feel so happy, that's not true. And that shouldn't be the way that it is. Happiness should sprout from deep within. And then that person that will try and bring it out a little bit more or heighten it even a little bit more. But it shouldn't be you dependent on that person for happiness. Yeah. So it's the exact same thing as gratitude. Gratitude comes from within. It's not just because your partner told you to be thankful that you should be thankful. It should be sprouting from within. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like if you don't want to do it yourself, it's not going to work. Like
no one else can force you to do it, because if they're forcing you, then you're going to retaliate and you're not going to like that way of thinking. Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely.
And just speaking like on the topic of happiness itself, like it seems like things like being in the state of flow and expressing gratitude and being mindful, they all like correlate with happiness.
Absolutely.
Like, what is happiness to you, and how important is happiness to you?
Happiness to me is the most important thing in this world. That like happiness is full stop. That's my motto. I think no matter what, and like even if you think in your head that it's the most silliest thing that can make you happy, I think that is just out of this world. I think it's amazing. Happiness, like, not everyone is different, and everyone probably, prize and other little things, but I think for me, happiness is the be all and the end all. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what kind of a job you have, what kind of friends, what kind of family, like what you own, what leisure activities you take part in. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is how happy I am. So it doesn't matter whether I have €5 or €50 to spend for the week. At the end of the day, your health is your wealth, and I think, like, we've heard that so much, your health is your wealth, and be thankful and be grateful. It is so true. In my opinion, it's so true, because without your health, what do you have? You can't take money to the grave with you, as hurtful and all as that sounds, but I think a lot of people are thinking like, oh, I want this car, and I want this, and I want that. Like, you can still be happy, and you can manifest it. Like, manifestation is such a word now that's like, I suppose, popular and trending on Instagram at the moment. But and like, you would get sick of hearing the word manifestation. But for me, I only started manifesting, I suppose, about 6 months ago. And I remember thinking to myself, in 6 months' time, what would I like my business to be at, or where would I like my own personality to be at? So I think that when you manifest, it's like you think in the thoughts in your head, and you're saying, okay, 6 months' time, it's not that I would like that, I will have it.
Yeah.
I will work to it, and I will get that, and I will get there, or I will get the car, or I'll get whatever, And I think that for a lot of people, we can kind of expect everything tomorrow, whereas there's a little bit of a journey to it, and happiness comes with that, So I think that the happier you are, and the more like settled and stable that you are, the more then that like you mature and life comes to follow, and you get those end goals that you've been looking for.
Exactly. And I think the people that always say, they come to me and they say, oh, it's not working, and it's only been 2 weeks, like,
Yeah.
I think it's to do with happiness, why they're not appreciating that it actually takes a bit of work. It's like, if they can't click their fingers, it's just not worth it, you know what I mean? But a huge thing there that, like, you were picking up on, a lot of people think happiness is purely to do with your life satisfaction. It's purely to do with how you're getting on your job, what your accomplishments are, things like that. It's not. Like, meaning and fulfillment are the two most important things.
So much,
definitely. It's not about goal getting or anything. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Time is of the essence. Like, it takes time, because I actually moved out of home the 4th of July, actually, Independence Day.
Oh, very nice.
We moved into a mobile home. So, like, I suppose, for me, looking back, when I was in secondary school, to tell me that I'd be living in a mobile home, I'd be thinking, what are you on about? And I suppose that would be a prime example of someone that thinks that they're too good for something, and like, it wasn't that I thought that I was too good, but it was always kind of like, but sure, when you're living in a mobile home, it's not warm, or, all these silly things that I would have thought about. But now, it's so different, like, I suppose my takeaway message from this would literally, like, be open-minded. Be so ready for what the future can unfold, because it can unfold some amazing things, like, to be where we are today. Like, it's amazing to have your own space and everything, but like, that all comes from internal happiness. Like, we wouldn't be here where we are without happiness in ourselves, but without people actually helping us as well. So gratitude to them then, so it's just a constant circle. Everything comes back together.
But it's actually interesting. There's a woman that really, she's really up in happiness. You probably heard of her. We probably, like, we did her in college anyway. I'm not sure if you did, but Sonia Lyubomirsky.
Okay, no, I haven't.
Basically, like, she's written articles on the how of happiness, and she's broken it down. I'm going to call these out now because I don't want to get them wrong. But there's
Yeah,
three basically stages of happiness first. Life circumstances is one, but it only accounts for 10% of our actual happiness. So like all your job, all that is
yeah,
literally 10%. The other one is in intentional activities, which is 40%, which is expressing gratitude, things like that, all the stuff we listed, going into states of flow, loads
yeah.
of things like that. But the one that makes up the most, and it's 50%, is that we have a genetic set point for happiness. So
Okay,
it's actually hereditary. This is what she believes, that it's
that's very
hereditary,
interesting. Yeah,
passed down to us of why we are happy. Now, I can relate to it a lot because I kind of grew up in a family that weren't, I suppose happiness wasn't a big kind of thing. There wasn't really appreciation of various things. Not, no complaints about it. It was absolutely so great
absolutely.
for what I've had. But I've had to learn how to be happy, you know.
Yeah,
And you have to work harder. If your genetic set point, say, if you're only getting maybe 25% out of that 50, you have a big gap to be able to, you know, you need to plug that gap by doing X, Y, and Z.
yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting that you
That is
actually
very
have,
interesting. It
yeah,
is, because I would relate in the opposite way, because as children, like, and my brother and sister would say the same thing now if they were here, but like, we were always told your health is your wealth, and it doesn't matter what this person has next door or that person next door has. You are you, you're unique, and you're going to do whatever you want to do in college or in school, and we'll support you. That's always what we were told. And like, that is, it's for me now, it's so touching, because that's the way I want my children to be brought up, and
yeah, amazing.
grandchildren and so on and so forth, please God. But you know, like, that, I really, really do actually agree with that, because I think that it does make sense. It definitely does.
Definitely. No, because like one thing for me, and I wouldn't admit this openly very often, but the greatest accomplishment that I will ever have in my life, and I know it's to do with accomplishments, but if I was lucky enough to raise family and raise them well, there would not, like, that's there, and
Yeah,
there's nothing that comes above that. Like, it's such a huge thing. But just on your kind of what you were saying there, like what I want to do is trying to, like, initially in life we learn by behavior, so we learn based off what our parents do, what, say, someone that calls to the house does, and we mimic that. Mimicking is
yeah,
our first stage of learning by behavior. So what I'd be hoping for is that even this whole world, not just me, that we're in a place that where our behavior is at a point that the generation after us are like, they're just ready.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah,
they're just
that
there.
it's almost like you're setting standard, and
Yeah,
that you're hoping that they will look up to you and make sure that they're carrying on what you have set out, and that's quite amazing. I think that's
yeah,
something to look forward to for the future.
yeah,
Definitely.
100%. How important do you think though consistency is with happiness? Because what I see with so many people is they go on happy spurts. So
Yeah.
they start being kind all of a sudden, and next thing, oh, it dips then a week later. Yeah, so it's just spurts of happiness.
So I
What's your
suppose,
thoughts on that?
yeah, so what I would say in that situation is, like, if you take anything from this, it doesn't mean that you have to be like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
happy. That's not the way it works. Like you wouldn't be a normal human being if you didn't feel not happy even one day out of the week. Because I
yeah,
think that's the reality with the way things are at the moment. But what I would say is, happiness comes from within, and it doesn't mean that you have to show that you're happy every day. It could be just the fact that, like, how would I describe it? It doesn't have to be like, happiness comes from within. So it doesn't mean that you actually have to meet someone to come in the door and be like, oh, Park, hello, how are you keeping? I'm in great form today. How are you feeling? And
yeah,
then if you say, well, Nicole, I'm actually not feeling that great, but it's okay, Park, you'll be fine. It's fine. Come with it. Like, you're
yeah.
happy, be happy. That doesn't work for everyone.
Oh,
And
yeah,
like, in my experience, I would consider myself as someone that's kind of like, oh, I'd be kind of like more kind of like my birthday. I remember waking up in the morning on my birthday and be like, oh my God, it's my birthday. Like, so happy. And I suppose everyone comes from different norms, and like, a lot of people were kind of like, Nicole, what is wrong with you? Like, get out, go over it like it's your birthday. But I'm like, we're celebrating life. Today is the day of my birthday, like, but that's just an example. But I think that, like, a lot of people, I think that happiness needs to be you expressing yourself to another person, whereas it can be just you happy in yourself,
yeah,
and you can still be quiet and go about your day. You might not feel up to actually speaking to people on the particular day, but at the same time you're still experiencing it, you know, and it'll be tomorrow then that you're feeling a little bit more and you kind of feel like you're going to come out of yourself a little bit more and speak to someone and tell them, well, I had a day where I was feeling a little bit off, but now I'm actually feeling much better, and thank you for giving me my space, you know. Like, it's not necessarily always that you want to have someone in your face. Like, a lot of the time you're entitled to your space and absolutely take your time out, you know. So I think that's
like, I feel the biggest thing with kind of happiness for me is that there are some people that aren't comfortable in their own company.
Yes.
But they need somebody else there to be, as in when they're on their own, they can't sit still with their own thoughts. They can't maintain a good vibe of their own company. I think that's
absolutely. And that's actually funny that excuse me, now that you mentioned that, because on my Instagram page, I actually spoke a little bit about self-sabotage. I'm not sure, have you heard about that before? But that's exactly the word that I would use for that, is self-sabotage, because you're not comfortable in your own body, you're not comfortable with your own happiness, but yet someone else might see actual potential in you, and you're so negative about yourself that you actually self-sabotage that opportunity. So you stop yourself of going further, and you stop yourself of actually succeeding in that area. So I suppose it's just important to be aware that, like, you know, like, see yourself through someone else's lens. It's not always the way that you're going to see yourself, you know. So, like, look at yourself in the mirror and think to yourself, well, maybe this is imperfect, but look at the other little things that are so perfect about me, you know. So, like, you mightn't have the whole happiness, what would I say, like, completely completed at the moment, but you're experiencing your gratitude and you're experiencing your flow. So they all kind of come together, you know. And self-sabotage, I suppose, is just important that you kind of, like, reroute it and try and change it in direction so that it's not stopping you of getting where you want to go.
Exactly, yeah. Like, a lot of the time people think, suddenly there's, like, I'm here and I'm done. As in, like you were saying there, that, like, you mightn't be at a point. We're not at a point. Like, you know, when you think that you're, like, when you think that you're there, you're just not. You're not.
No,
like,
you're not. Absolutely. And if you had told me, like, a year ago that I would have gone back into my masters, I'd have kind of looked at you and been like, what? Because, like, it takes me back to the day that I opened my results, and I remember that year had been so hard. Like, I remember trying to study and then trying to be at home because my mum was in hospital. So I obviously have a younger sister. She's 10 years younger than me, Adele. And, like, she was in primary school, so I was making sure that when she came home that, like, my dad was working until 6 o'clock, so I'd kind of make sure that when she came home I'd help her with her homework or so on and so forth, you know. And I remember opening my results and just looking, and with my mum by my side, and just flooded in tears. Flooded. And, like, for me, that was the best release that I could have ever done, because I think that it was just so much off my shoulders. And when I opened that, and, like, I'm not about grades, or I'm not about numbers, or I'm not about that, but I actually reached my 1-1. I got a 1-1, and I had worked so hard for it, but I thought in my own mind, oh God, Nicole, you'd barely passed it, I'd say, you know, because of everything that had gone on. But for me, I think I became so strong on the other side because of all that went on. And I think as well that I remember remarking to myself, like, to my mom in that moment, was like, oh my God, I'd be so silly to waste this 1-1 and not go for a master's.
100%.
And I remember I didn't apply for the year, but it was the best decision that I ever done, was actually working on my own business and building my own business, you know. So
Good experience, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great, you know, the whole gratitude in looking back on that is fabulous. It really is.
Is there something gone totally? Oh no, I have it. It came back to me. Yeah, you were just you were just talking about there that like how you were in tears after like your exams and things like that. I saw something recently actually that just a load of studies came out of it, that when you actually cry and express emotion at something that happens, it's the total opposite of a sign of weakness. It's a real sign of strength. It's that you're comfortable expressing yourself with them people, and that's a real, you know, sign of character and who you are. That you are content with you, like.
Absolutely, and it's just, you just take so much, I suppose, from that situation, and it's just like, for me, that was me expressing my happiness. That those were happy tears, you know. And I remember ringing my dad and roaring on the phone, I got it, you know. And like, I remember it was definitely the topic for the whole entire week after that, was like, oh, we're delighted for you, you know. And I suppose in that situation, I'm so lucky that I would have had parents like that would have gone above and beyond to put me through college in the first place, and then to be able to celebrate with me, you know. It was great. And I still hear, like, they're still joking about Jesus, when you're finished these masters now as well, please God, we'll have another graduation, because this will be my fourth graduation between PLC and
true.
yeah, so it's gas, like, you know. But it's good to joke about things too. It's good to have a laugh.
It is, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, like, I think as well with you there, like, I think the adversity is what made it. Like, I think adversity is what makes us as people. And I bet it, well, this is just what I'm gathering, that, like, the fact you went through the difficulties and the fact you had so much to be able to do, I think that's really, it kind of came to the apex then for you that, well, I did this, like, you know.
Yeah, it really does. And there's no feeling like it when you do succeed. And, like, I suppose for me as well, similar would have been when I actually went self-employed. Like, that was massive for me, because I would have always worked my backside off teaching classes or like that, but building somebody else's name, you know, that kind of way. Yeah. Whereas this time it was my turn, and I suppose taking the year out, it kind of allowed me to adjust to what I wanted and where I wanted to go myself, you know. So, like, to be able to say that I've been working in County Cork, County Limerick, County Kerry, you know, there's so much, and I've been into so many like care hospitals. So Rathfreda in County Limerick, I've been there with like a group of 4 males, which has been a fabulous experience. I've been into Kilcornan teaching over 50 people in a class, 50 OAPs in a class at one time. And, you know, it's those little things that you take from those situations where I'm so grateful. And, like, all those people own a little bit of my heart, because I feel like when I go into a situation, a lot of people can depend on you an awful amount, and it's my duty then to look after that and make sure that they do get as much as they can out of the actual situation, you know. So it just stands out for me, I suppose, in Rathfreda, my 4 males wouldn't have been, we'll say the 4 of them would have been completely in a wheelchair all their life.
Oh,
and yeah, so it was quite challenging, because I remember when I first heard, I was kind of thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? Because this is so different. You know, I'm so used to people maybe sitting in a chair but being able to move their limbs. So I remember thinking, how am I going to change this up? And, like, anyone that knows me, I have a big speaker that I take to every class. But I remember walking in with the speaker, and, like, I got so many strange looks, and I was kind of thinking, oh God, what am I bringing myself into now? Do you know, am I looking stupid with the microphone and with the speaker and the whole lot? But when I came in, I remember I had made a SoundCloud playlist of, like, all the old country music.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell me ma, all these songs, and I put them on, and, like, we were just doing movements with our hands and stuff like that, and I played them, and that was fine. The first week passed by, so I was saying, okay, I think that went okay, I'm kind of happy with that. So I went in the following week, and I thought to myself, maybe I'm going to give the music a break now for this week, just because I didn't get too much, like, interaction from them with the music, so I wasn't sure. So when I went in the second week, I didn't come in with the speaker, and I wasn't inside, I'd say, 2 minutes. And the first thing they said, where's your music? We loved your music last week. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, you ape. But I had it in the car, so I went out and got it. But like that, it's just so funny the way something so small like that can brighten up someone's day, you know. And the second week, then they were belting it out. They were singing it flat out, you know, like, so it was amazing. It was really touching. I'm very lucky with what I have and who I have actually met along the way. Absolutely.
Definitely. That's where the market is, by the way. I know this is totally off topic, and it's not about happiness, but the money is there. Like, the kind of people need to target, like, as well. They need it more than most as well, though. Like, you know, they're a target population that need to be looked at. Like.
Absolutely, and I think that as well in college, it's very topical at the moment during our masters, is that the courses are there, but it's not actually available to everyone. So, like, if you're living in a low socioeconomic area, it's not necessarily that you're going to be actually, if that transport is going to be available to you, not mind someone actually coming to your local hall or community hall or library like we have in Atay, where we can use as a lovely room, you know. But I do think that, like, it is something along the way that would have potential in it, you know. And I actually started up an over 55s class as well in Atay just before the COVID. But like,
Oh, yeah, very good.
yeah, so it's great.
I
And
thought about doing it myself actually, but I just got a bit too busy I was coaching football teams and I was like, no, I just don't have the time. But
yeah,
yeah,
to try and
sure.
put into it. But and it was really, really successful, and I get messages from them nearly, I'd say,
Yeah.
once every 2 weeks. I hope we'll be back next week. And I know that it's been pushed out the whole time, but we will get there, and we'll be back again, and there's no fear.
And the social aspect of that, I think, is the most important part.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and like that, it's funny, music, turn it on, and we were jiving the whole lot around
Yeah.
the ball. And that's what it's about. It's about losing yourself and not caring about the person alongside. And I think that a lot of people actually get that from me too, because I'm kind of like, go with the flow, we'll get it done, and sure, once you're moving, that's all that matters. And jiving, dancing, going around in circles, the whole lot, it's
See
deadly
what your
crack.
body feels like.
Exactly.
Definitely, 100%.
Absolutely.
All I can say is anyway, just from my behalf, is I couldn't have thought of a better person, honestly, to do it here
Thank you
in
so much.
college and everything.
And I was so grateful as well to get the opportunity, because I suppose, I was on the phone to my mom this morning, and mom's like, best of luck now with your interview, and I remember thinking, I was like arguing her, I said, Mom, this could be the makings of me now, this
Yeah,
could be
okay,
the road that I could be going, but thank you so much for it, because it's been a pleasure. And like I said, I came on, and I had told you that I was going to literally plan everything out, and I had not,
a blank page.
everything, everything came from here, so I think that's important too.
That's good. So I have one segment just before we go. I try and tie it into my Instagram if I can.
Yeah.
It's from the Walsh Weekly before Christmas, and I've just 3 questions, and just to see you're taking them. The first one is, do you agree with labels in society?
Do I agree with labels in society? In some situations, I don't think I do, because I don't think that anybody should be labelled, to be honest. I don't think that, there should be these categories. Fair enough, there should be categories of, gratitude and all these. But when it comes to people, I don't think, because I think that when you do put a label on someone, or when you do try and group people together, that then it kind of causes a little bit of controversy, and some people don't like it either, because just because you like football doesn't mean that you're just for football, so there is definitely room for mingle, and you might be someone that loves mindfulness, football and cooking.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it doesn't just necessarily mean that you're someone that actually is just a footballer, does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Answer your question.
No, definitely. It's just my kind of taking it is I hate this thing that people say, oh, he's this type of person, she's that type of person.
Yeah.
People,
Without even knowing, or without even getting to know the person.
that's it, yeah, and they have a preconceived idea then of who they are. But people change and evolve all the time. The one guarantee that we have in life is that we're going to change.
Absolutely.
Based off our experiences. And I just don't like that as well. There'll be popular groups of people. I wouldn't fit in there. Of course you'd fit in. Everyone has their place.
That's funny that you say that, because I actually even hear my sisters say this, that they're the popular ones now in school, and I'm kind of like, but that's the way it was when we were in school too. So that has never changed. This whole perception, absolutely, of even Mean Girls and all this crap. Oh, they're the popular ones now, and they're not the pop. It's the same thing.
Definitely, 100%. So the next question is: are we shaped by technology?
At the moment, I think so. Unfortunately, I think so. I think that technology at the moment is just gone haywire. In comparison to when we were younger, it's just when I was younger anyway. I was outside the whole time, playing in the yard. Like I said, painting the walls over and over again. But nowadays, it's social media, technology, cameras, television, everything. There's no such thing as going outside for the kids, So I think that it's important that needs to go backwards and go back to the way that it was before.
Definitely, but the way I see it is what would we be doing right now if we didn't have technology? I couldn't even imagine the answer to that question now.
Yeah. I know it's great in one way, because obviously with everything that's going on, I can do my masters online. Yeah. And without that, I would obviously be stuck and we wouldn't be able to go ahead with that. But I suppose I'd be looking at it in the sense of kids, that when they're younger, that it's so important to get into that state of flow and get outside and get messing around with the dirt and the stones and everything like that,
Instead of just been throwing the iPad and just go away and play with that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Right, so the last question on this is, would you prefer the world today or what the world was like 50 years ago?
I prefer, say that again now. World today or 50 years ago?
Yeah, so which would you prefer to be in? The world we're living in right now or the world the way it was 50 years ago?
Good question. I think what I would like is if I could take my business now and live 50 years ago, I would like that. If
Oh,
that makes sense. Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
So I think that 50 years ago things were so pure and so
Yeah.
calm. Now I know that like poverty and it
Yeah.
wasn't as like what would I say, money wasn't as flush as it is these days. Now I know it's not flush for everyone, I'm not saying that either, but like things were a little bit different 50 years ago, but I do think that if I had my business I would be a lot more happier because when it does come to the case when I have kids and I want to rear them, I think that 50 years ago probably was a lot safer than it was nowadays, you know.
I think like there are positives in both, but like I think we've made some serious strides. Like if you go back to 50 years ago, we wouldn't be having same-sex marriage. Do you know what I mean? Things like that.
Absolutely.
You know, we've made but some of them have come at a big cost. So when you talk on social media and things like that, there's a lot of negativity out there.
There's so much negativity, and I think that like for me, my camera's gone off now. I apologise for that. I don't know why it's gone off. But for me, I suppose I think it's so important that everyone can be themselves in this world, because if we couldn't be ourselves, then who could we be, or who does these people want us to be, you know? So for myself, like I have experience of it too, like, and I just don't understand how someone can judge another person when they're not sure in 20 years down the line, is it going to come to their door? You know, that kind of way. And like, it's such a good positive thing, because gay marriages, anything like that, it literally should not define a person, or it should not stop them of reaching where they're going. You know, and like, for one thing, for me, and this could be quite controversial now, but you've got me going now. But what was I going to say? Yeah, absolutely. So I think that this whole thing, and like you've probably heard it yourself, of, oh, they've come out the closet, or they've come out.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Like, for me, that statement, for me, just like, I suppose, and I would turn that around and I would say, well, the person that says that is probably the person that needs to come out of the closet, because this is 2021. Exactly. This is what we're living in. Like, this is only the start of it. What's going to be like in 20 years' time? You know, like, things are constantly like evolving and constantly changing. So for me, that statement just annoys me so much, because I think that when you say that, you know, it's yourself that needs to come out the closet. You need to come out, and like, to actually even say something like that is very it's like very closed. You know, you need to be kind of more open-minded.
Get into the 21st century, like.
Absolutely, exactly.
It's actually a funny story. I have it's similar, but it's not at the same time. It's kind of a little bit off topic, but it's just a story that it kind of reminded me of. I remember a few years back, I was seeing a girl, and one of her friends literally came up to me, and literally the first thing she just says to me after I started seeing her, "Don't F it up." That's literally what I got, and I was like, we're in the 21st century here. Like, if you at least, like, if you had the thought of, instead of that, more like, geez, make her happy instead of don't F it up. You know, that just seems to be the mindset of people. Like, they just need to come out of that. And
absolutely, because like, even to actually say that those things, it's almost like that she's like, you know, that she's like trying to stim it and trying to make you mess up. You know.
Exactly. It's like you have to shape yourself around that comment then, and then you're not even yourself with the person. So what's the point, like, you know? It's just, I find it an amazing kind of the mindset of people. But it's amazing. It's you know, it's all mindset. It's amazing. To be honest, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it's all about. It's about living life and making sure that, like, God forbid, and please God, it won't happen for ages, but when we do leave this world, that we're leaving like footprints afterwards. Do you know? I think that it's like we said already, that our children and grandchildren then will pick up on that and carry it on. You know, so that's important.
Exactly. Nicole, we're near the very end. I have just one final question for you before we go, and that is for any of the listeners out there. Could you give them 3 recommendations that you would make for them to start improving their well-being?
So 3 recommendations is definitely start being yourself. So whether that means like whether it means going out in the yard and just doing whatever you want to do, or whether it means going on social media, if that's what you want to do and you want to speak to your following or whatever on social media, do not hesitate and just do it. That's, if I could look at myself 10 years ago, I would say that to myself. The second thing is, when you wake up first thing in the morning, literally take 3 big deep breaths in and talk to yourself. So like self-talk is massive. I would definitely say, like, I wouldn't go to the point of saying 3 positive things, but I would say 3 things that I'm going to do today and that are going to make me feel so much better when I get them done. And then the third thing that I would say to you is just live life. Live it to the fullest. Take every opportunity that you can and just make the most of it. And at the end of the day, you'll thank yourself so much, because when you look back, you'll be so much stronger and so much more, like, the word that I would use is colourful, because like life is just so colourful and just so creative and everything, and it's just fabulous.
Yeah, we just gotta open our eyes to see it.
Really, really it does.
100%. Nicole, thanks so much. I think so many people are going to get so much out of that conversation. I really appreciate you coming on. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much, Larry. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity. I had a ball.
That's great.
And like that, I was in a state of flow because we've been here for a full hour. You wouldn't even realise.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much anyway, and I hope everyone enjoyed it, and we will catch you later.
Thanks a million.